Hello and welcome back to Rams Talk Podcast. And we're here after a pretty disastrous 4-0 defeat away at QPR. I think that's probably putting it a bit lightly. It was a pretty horrible watch, and I feel very, very sorry for the people who went. Derby just completely outplayed. We conceded a goal, heads went down. How many times we've seen that this season? And John Eustace had possibly the worst start he could have had in charge of Derby County. And I think it was quite telling that in his post-match press conference, he talked a lot about what he was going to be doing in training over the next week. So let's hope he can put it into practice. To discuss everything that happened at the weekend, this is our first episode since Eustace was appointed, actually, funnily enough. So we'll have a quick chat about the timing and stuff of that. Plus loads of other talking points about what's happened over the weekend. Because as we say, it's never boring at Derby. So we've always got stuff to talk about, which makes our job a lot easier. So joining me tonight to talk through everything I've just mentioned there. First, I've got Jack Doughty. How are you, Jack?
Yeah, well, better today than I was yesterday, we'll say that much. Kind of processed it a little bit.
Yeah, well, I'm the same boat, mate. I didn't really touch social media at all yesterday because I knew what kind of place it would be. So yeah, I'm with you. I've also got Vic Singh. How are you, Vic?
Yeah, not too bad. Eustace has got a lot of work to do, innit? But other than that, not too bad.
It's one of those where you can't do anything but laugh, can you? I mean, I think it's probably worth putting into context. I've seen some people already. I saw people blaming Eustace for the defeat on Friday. He had less than a day with the team, which is it's just mental, isn't it? I saw someone say we're better under Wall, and I was like, Christ. What levels have we hit? I mean, Eustace inherited a team that had 2 wins in 19 games, obviously 2 wins in 20 now. He's clearly inherited a team that is completely devoid of any confidence or belief. We saw it the second that ball hit the back of the net from Chair, which, let's be fair, that is an absolute wonder goal. Heads dropped, confidence went. I mean, Jack, it's killed us, hasn't it, this season? I think we talk a lot about Warne and the style of play and stuff like that. But when we look at the actual run of results, I mean, 2 wins in 20, that's 2 wins since the start of November. The confidence has well and truly been smacked straight out of the players.
Yeah, and goals against seem to come like buses, don't they? They're just always in twos, and that's what ultimately kills us off is, when we concede one, the chances are there's going to be another one followed in pretty quick succession. And I mean, fair play. I've seen a lot of people try and criticise Zetterstrom, but I think you could have put him in the middle of his goal. He still hasn't saving that. It's an absolute wonder strike out of nothing, and that's just our luck, isn't it? Like if that was the shoe on the other foot, it cannons off the post, or if it's any of our players at the moment, it's probably slicing out for a throw in. But we're just not getting much luck. And you make your own luck, and that's not an excuse because we was all over the shop, weren't we, for a good probably 60, 70 minutes of that game. We had a good first 20 though, and then after that just completely fell off a cliff.
Well, that's it, Vic. And I guess if we want to take loose positives from the game, first 20, we actually looked pretty good. We controlled the game. QPR couldn't get too much of the ball. One thing that was a problem, couldn't break them down. And that's been the problem all season. And we had Kenzo Houdmine. Obviously, we'll talk about the changes later on. But Houdmine dropped out of the team. He'd started, 5-6 games on the bounce in quick succession. Moved out of the team. I kind of get it because he played a lot of games. We ended up with the players that we had. We'd have had to have played him deep, and I don't think Eustace would have wanted to do that away at QPR, so I kind of get it. But at the same time, those sort of 20 minutes are when you need your best players, aren't they? Because Derby were on top. Derby should have scored, really, during that time, and we didn't have the creativity, and that's what let us down again.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue that's probably been the story of our season, to be honest. I think we've done well for 20 minutes and then we either make a mistake or something happens, or we miss a key chance, and before you know it, we're a goal or 2 down. And I think unfortunately these are the last remnants of the sort of the Paul Warne sort of era. I think it's one game post Paul Warne, but I just think that for 20 minutes we look good, but the problem has been that we haven't been able to sustain that for about 90 minutes for, I think there's only been 2 games the whole season we've done that. So it's sort of scars of the old regime. However, it's going to take time to build this up. And in my opinion, if I was to put a positive spin on the whole performance, it's probably given Eustace the map to sort of rectify all the wrongs of this side and what we can do better. I think maybe we needed a performance like this in order for Eustace to know what's gone wrong. what he can do to improve that. So if there's any silver lining to it all, I think it's the fact that we played so poorly, but it's going to give John Eustace the blueprint to sort of make us better. So it's a bit similar to that first half against Ipswich, really. If you think about how poor we were then, and we were poor in this game, and all of a sudden we managed to turn it around. Hopefully Eustace can have the same impact. So I'm going to put a little bit of a spin on that. Let's just say it was the perfect remedy to show Eustace exactly what we needed to improve on.
Well, I think one of the issues, and we talked about this before Vic joined, because Vic likes to join us literally 5 seconds before we start recording. So me and Jack had a nice chat between us before Vic arrived. We talked about the midfield. Now, already kind of mentioned it already. Derby made a couple of changes in the middle. Ozo was not fit to play, along with Nat Phillips, who are two, obviously big players for us, big losses. And Ben Osborne came into midfield. Now, it looked like we played a 4-4-2, 4-2-3-1, whatever you want to call it. We had two in midfield, and Ibu Adams and Ben Osborne. I thought Ibu probably had his worst game that he had for Derby. I think he looked isolated, and I think he really struggled. Ben Osborne, we've said already, when he plays an older midfield, he might as well not be there. I feel sorry saying for that. I feel sorry for him saying that, but he's not big. He's not a presence. Players run past him like he's not there. He's not really great in the air. He's not really a good passer of the ball on the turn. He's not a centre mid, is what I'm trying to say. We saw at left wing back, he's clearly a talented player when he plays in that position, which really suits him. But playing in midfield, he looked lost. And it ended up with Derby's midfield, Jack, getting battered all game. I mean, first goal, simple Derby throw. Nyambe throws it straight to Ibu Adams, who takes somehow 3 touches in the space of a second, loses possession. It comes to Chair, hits it on the turn, top bins, and off the post. Second goal, I can't even remember who it was, runs, got a clean run through the centre of Derby's midfield, ends at 1v1 with Nyambe, who I also thought had probably his worst game for Derby. Puts it across, and Zetterstrom, he had to come for it. He probably should have done better with it. Palms it straight into the middle, and their guy takes it around him and scores. Third goal, you look at that, and Matt Clark has to come out because there's no one in midfield there. And Clark's having to step into midfield to try and win the ball, misjudges it, goes over, mishits it, it goes over his head, they go through, they score again. And 3 of the 4 goals came directly from Derby's midfield not being there and not being present. I mean, Jack, it's a real problem, isn't it? It is a real problem. Derby struggled in midfield all season. We looked so much better when Ozo was back, and we saw that, Norwich away, Oxford at home. We had that presence in midfield again. He was gone, and we lost it.
Yeah, and I think it just exposes Ibu Adams' flaws as a footballer, doesn't it? Because we all know he's probably the best player off the ball that we've probably all witnessed. He is a freak without the ball, but with it he needs help. And unfortunately, when you're asking Ibu Adams to try and dictate a game, it isn't going to happen. And again, touching on Ben Osborne, he was excellent at left wing back against Norwich. I thought he was arguably one of our best players, and to see the drop off from left wing back to centre midfield is pretty staggering, isn't it? And as you say, the presence wasn't there, and that's been an issue all season. When Ozo did get injured originally, that midfield shrunk massively, like height and presence.
I was going to say physically.
Yeah, physically, it just shrunk. Like you just look at the midfield and it looked weak. And as you say, when we had Ozo back, and granted he wasn't particularly slick against Oxford, he was still a little bit, working his way back in, and it showed glimpses of the player he once was at the start of the season. But yeah, we massively misbalance in midfield. And again, we're going to probably talk about the recruitment. It wasn't particularly great from the summer. It hasn't been particularly. It's been a bit lackluster over January as it comes. We needed probably 3 more, and we ended up with a young lad on loan who looks tidy, but again, he's not that presence. You need a bully. You need somebody horrible who can play football, and Ibu's only got half of that, really.
Yeah, he does. He does. I mean, touching on transfers, I think, well, we've mentioned it already. We've done a few episodes since Warne's gone, and I think the way Derby handled all of it was really poor. I mean, like I said, 2 wins in 20. This has been coming for a long time. We saw, I mean, think back to Plymouth at home, for example. Plymouth at home, we didn't create 1 chance, and it was games like that where you could see, right, we're starting to lose it now. We're starting to slip. And it carried on, and it's led to a point where it feels like David Klaus has gone, right, we need to get rid of him. We need to change it. Oh, God, we need to do it right now. Get him gone. We need to get someone in. But then we've got rid of him. We've then had 2 games with, one of them being an incredibly winnable game against Oxford with no manager. We've had Matt Hamshaw had to take over. And then we've gone straight in. We're playing QPR away, 3rd best team in the league on form over the last 15 games. And they've battered us. And now we're suddenly in a position where we've got 13 games left. John Eustace can't sign any players unless it's free agents, which again is a pretty poor market at the minute. If he pulls someone good out the bag, I know Ryan Kent and people like that have been mentioned, which are very ambitious, but if we could get it over the line, it'd make a big difference. And we've left him with nothing. We've given him nothing. We could have easily sacked Warne end of November. We could even have sacked him in December. We could have sacked him at any time. Leeds away. We could have sacked him after that when he basically admitted that we didn't even try in the game. There were lots of opportunities to make that decision. And Derby have made the wrong decision. With the recruitment, they've made the wrong decisions. And it feels like we keep making the wrong decisions from the top. Now, I don't put much of the blame on David Klaus. I know I mentioned his name earlier. I don't think it's entirely his fault. I think it's the fault of the guy who's running things on the ground, Stephen Pearce. Stephen Pearce was a CFO. He's now CEO of Derby. What does he know about running the footballing side of a football club? Nothing at all. He doesn't know anything. Every other team pretty much has someone in their board or someone just below the board that's above the manager that makes footballing decisions. Derby don't have that, and it's showing. I mean, Vic, it's really showing, isn't it? Because our recruitment, yes, we brought in a couple of good players. Sondra Langos, love him. What a player. But we needed more Sondra Langoses. We needed at least 2 more, 3 more. We brought in Salverson. Looks a good player. I like Salverson. But we need another one. We needed more wingers. How are we going into a relegation battle and Marcus Harness is our first choice left winger? I like Harness. Don't get me wrong. I think there's something in there. There's definitely something in there. But at the moment, we need someone else to come in and give him that boost. Give Mendes Lang, give Barkes, give everyone the kick up the backside that they need to perform. We didn't sign anyone. We brought in young Harrison Armstrong. He only turned 18 a month ago. How are we meant to compete, Vic? When it's clear that the club have made a big mistake here. They've made a last-minute decision to get rid of Warne and get Eustace in because they've realised, oh my God, if we don't do something now, we're actually going to go down and there's no chance of staying up. Eustace gives us a slither of hope. Under Warne, I don't know if we'd ever have won again. Is that dramatic? Yeah, of course it is. But it felt like we'd never win again. At least under Eustace, I go into a game thinking there's a 1% chance that we might win. But Vic, I mean, looking at it, how have Derby got it so wrong?
I think when you look back at the overall picture, I think you got to look at the lack of footballing knowledge in the board. There's David Klaus, there's Stephen Pearce. You've also got Mark Thomas, who's the recruitment, the manager himself, who would have been Warne at the time, now Eustace. There's no footballing knowledge in that board, and I think, but especially when you're looking to bring things like a medical team involved, a recruitment team, scouting network, you need a director of football to sort of manage all of that. Now, Stephen Pearce has been here since pre-admin, so he's been here during the dark days, and there's an argument to say he shouldn't be here going forward, even to where we are now. And I agree with that. I think he's still a remnant of the previous regime, and to be honest, when things haven't gone well, it's always him that seems to have some hand or involvement in it. For me, I just think that if we'd have, I admire David Klaus for the different teams he's brought in, such as the medical team and all that. I think going forward, long term, there's a real place for that. Prior to that, I think he should have done a director of football first and really get the structure right. I think this is where Derby and now, this is where we're seeing the failures. We can't get the recruitment right because we don't have any sort of footballing knowledge. We've had a manager that was here long before he should have been here. I think he should have been sacked at latest early January, just so Eustace would have had a chance to sort of get the players that we need in. Again, it's come to a detriment. We've waited till the transfer window's finished, decided to sack Warne, and now we're expecting Eustace to work miracles with a side that is very bang average and is lacking in confidence. Now, I hope Eustace can perform that miracle. However, it's a lot to expect from someone that's just walking through the door, and we've literally got 13 games to save our season. Not to say we can't do it, but it's a lot to ask. And I just think that top to bottom, I think there's a lot of mistakes been made, and I think hopefully we can learn from it this season. I pray to God that we actually do stay up this year, because I think going down, I think we'll really struggle to come back up from League One, because it's getting more and more competitive by the years gone by. But if we stay up, I really hope that we can get the structure right, get a director of football in, be the gap between the footballing side of it and the business side of it. We need someone to bridge that gap. Whether that's a Steve McLaren or whoever wants to chuck a name at anyone that's experienced, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not an expert in any of that.
Bring him back.
In the job if you want. Put me in the job if you want. I'll be director of football. But yeah, we need someone to bridge that gap. Let's get the structure right, and hopefully we can start building forward. Again, we're looking at trying to stay up this season. That's the main aim now. But top to bottom, I do think we need to have a reshuffle, and we 100% need to get a director of football in to just be that link between the business and the football inside of it. Once we get that, I think we'll move forward as a club in leaps and bounds.
Yeah, I agree, and I do think, and I know people have said it already, I think if we do go down this year, it's on their hands, isn't it? Realistically, because everyone knew Warren was out of his depth. I think Warren probably knew Warren was out of his depth. So yeah, to leave it this late is really disappointing. But one thing that Vic mentioned there, Jack, is to do with the confidence. Now, I was really disappointed actually to see some of the not even criticism, just outright abuse that some of the Derby players got. I mean, Jakovic Zetterstrom, when he came in at the start of the season, he looked unbelievable. He was saving one-on-ones. He was saving everything. He's got so much better as well at collecting crosses. I don't know if you've noticed. Ignore the fourth goal. But he's got so much better at collecting crosses and coming out for the ball. You know, at the start of the season, he was punching everything, wasn't he? He's punching everything. Now he's claiming it. He's holding it. He's controlling his back line. And I saw him compared to Keller Roos, which is possibly the worst comparison any goalkeeper can have. I think maybe it's just because he speaks with a little bit of an accent. People have got, Roos, because he's a bit tall. But we've seen so many players lose their confidence, Jack, and Zetterstrom's one of them. You know, Niambi, I thought, looked low on confidence. Ibu looked low on confidence. I could name the whole squad. They all look completely flat and devoid of any sort of confidence. How does Eustace win that back? How does he do it?
Time, isn't it, really? Like, it's all in flux. The club's been in flux since last Friday when we sacked Paul Warne a day before the game. Now, whatever happens has happened. But then players have lost a manager that they clearly still respected. That it didn't lose them in terms of effort. The boys were still running. They were still gassing out, as we call it. They were still doing that. And when you see a manager lose the changing rooms, players stop running. They just let people walk past, and that wasn't happening. So to lose the manager and then go in with one of the manager's close friends, who's also emotionally still invested into Paul Warne, of course the players are going to be all over the shop. And then, you know, whatever happened between Derby and Blackburn happened, and it was clearly delayed as a tactic, and Blackburn did this with the last manager that walked, and they're a completely different story altogether. But there's clearly some flux. It's clearly just a bit of hangover. And I think Callum put it in the chat earlier, we probably did need a drilling. We probably did need a pasting. It can't, like, as Mick McCarthy said, or had it said to him, it can't get worse. It can't, nothing
it can.
It can, but it can't get worse than Friday. It cannot. And if it does, then we're in for a dark day. But that was the worst showing that we've had in a long time. And I just think it is confidence. Yes, I fully agree. The players look completely devoid, but also they're still emotional. We're all emotional people. We all care, but we don't have that relationship with Paul Warne as what the players do. They see him day in, day out. They listen to him. He FaceTimes them. They go to the cinema. They go bowling. Whatever they do, they have that personal, friendship with him. And they're clearly going to be upset. The fact that no, not many players have put stuff out doesn't necessarily mean that they didn't like Paul Warne, because a lot of them are we've had cast off and misfits. Like Mendes Lang's probably the longest he's been at a club is now. He's never really settled. And there's quite a few players in this team that have never really settled at a club. So to have a person around you for 2.5 seasons, you do get used to that same face. And Eustace probably walked in on Thursday and the lads were like, this is bizarre. Like, this isn't right. And I get we've kept Matt Hamshaw and Andy Warrington. Is that a good thing? I'm not sure. I think for now, yes. Like short term, 13 games. Yeah, I agree. I think they'll be gone after the season's finished. And, it is what it is. It's where we are. But John Eustace is a massive job. And I'm sure the 5 days we're going to have on the training field this week is going to be a completely different side that come out against Millwall. I'm still remaining positive. I still think this 3 teams worse than us. I just think we just need to find a win, and one win can change anything. One win is the difference between 3 wins. Because if we win 1, the confidence comes back. Oh, we do know how to play football. We do know how to score goals. Like, I mean, Jerry Yates missed that open goal. Like, you know, it's a striker missing an open goal. That's his job. As Roy Keane would say, load of buzzwords in this, but that is his job. But Jerry Yates against West Brom was slotting him in on an angle that was ridiculous. So it's just confidence, and that will come. John Eustace will have the boys in there, and he'll be showing them everything great. Hopefully, he's showing them the poor as well, that we can get out of this mess. Because I still honestly believe there is a way we stay up.
Yeah. Well, there has to be. There's always a way. The thing is, we're not 15 points adrift. And I think the reason why people are so wound up and upset is because the run we've been on is dreadful. I mean, we've picked up hardly any points in winter.
We've hardly had a shot. That's the worst bit. We've hardly created anything.
Yeah, well, that comes to my lovely stat here. 1 open play goal in the last 8 games. Again, we talk about Warne's legacy. That's what it was. We couldn't score from open play. We had a little spell where we actually did for a little while. That was nice, but I think that was really offset by the 4 against Portsmouth that we did score. But yeah, we can barely score from open play. We can't break teams down. And you can tell by the way teams are playing. I mean, when it got fired into midfield or it got fired into Jerry Yates, we were really static, Vic, and that's what was kind of annoying me. We had a little bit of movement in the first 10 minutes, 15 minutes, but I don't think it was until Armstrong and Kenzo came on that we actually started pinging the ball around a bit. And, you know, players aren't moving. There's no passing. There's no moving. One thing Armstrong did, which I don't think I've seen a Derby player do in ages, he picked up the ball about, I think this might have been against Oxford, actually, about 30 yards from goal. I just fired in a pass to Jerry Yates's feet. On the edge of the box, and we just played a direct ball into Yates's feet, and he played it around the corner for, I think it was Jackson. And how often did Derby do that? Literally, like, never. It's like, if you want the ball as a striker, Salverson, mate, get up in the air, fight that 6'5" centre half. That's the only way you're going to get a touch of the ball where we play it. We don't really have the players to do it. I mean, I've seen a couple of people calling for Armstrong, Kenzo to start. We've got to be looking that way, haven't we, Vic? Because we need those ball players in those forward positions.
No, exactly. And if you're looking to try and score goals, you need creativity. And if you're leaving your creativity on the bench, you're just sort of putting stopgaps in. And no disrespect to Ibu or Osborne, but we know what Ibu can do, and it's not Ibu's game to create chances. It's more to break up play and just get us moving forward. He needs somebody next. If we are going to persist with a 2, I don't think we should. I think we should go back to a midfield 3, in my opinion. But if we are going to persist with that, we need a playmaker by the side of him. And Osborne isn't that. You need a Kenzo. You need an Armstrong who can sort of just unlock a defence and just play the killer ball. On top of that, though, we need the runners on the wings as well. We need if Jackson's going to play wing, he needs to move more. I've been saying it all season. He needs to really get up and down that way. Use your pace. Players are scared to defend against that pace. Use it. There's no point you playing backwards and sideways.
I feel Jackson's probably a lost cause at this point.
It probably is, but we've got to instill some sort of confidence in him. Mendes Lang the same. You've got to get at your players. You've got to use your pace. Use your strengths. If it is your pace, get further forward, make those runs, and let the midfield dictate and put those passes in. We know Salverson, he can hold the ball up. And then this is why I think we need to play 2 up top with Salverson and Yates. I just think that it'll get the best out of Yates. But Salverson's more of your hold-up player. He can get everyone else. He can link everyone else into play. That should play to Yates' strength, and he can get into the box. There's not so much onus on him to have to do all of that work. He can just focus on getting in and around that 6-yard area. Bam, put the goal in, put the ball into the back of the net. We do need creativity. It all depends on how this week goes with Eustace now on the training field. I think he's going to really put it to him. He's really going to whip him into shape. And I think we'll see a different side come Millwall on Saturday. But again, it just depends on how we want to set up. But we do need creativity. We've said it all year. Let's hope we can get it starting against Millwall.
Yeah, well, on Mendes Lang, there were a couple of times against QPR. He beat his man down the line, put it across the box, obviously to nobody because that's what happens. But he did it a couple of times, but he got it wrong once and he lost the ball and he didn't do it again after that. And I think when we talk about confidence players, we say that a lot about players, and everyone needs confidence to perform, don't they? You don't see many players sort of pull it out of the bag when they're struggling for form. But I think Mendes Lang's really suffering from a bit of a crisis of confidence, a lot like a lot of the Derby players, but we're seeing it a lot now. You remember last season, he'd pick up that ball, he'd just run at anyone, he'd do his little step over, he'd go inside, he'd go outside. Now, that shot that he had was probably our best chance, let's be honest, apart from the Yates one towards the end. That was the best chance when we were in the game, and he slashed at it. He completely and utterly rushed it, and it was probably got about 5 yards wide if it hadn't have struck the defender. And we're seeing that a lot. I mean, we've mentioned it so much in, 25 minutes, how low the players are on confidence. And you can see it most in players like Mendez-Laing. Jackson, I mean, yeah, I think Jack's probably right. I think he's not good enough for this level. He's not a winger. I've been saying it this whole time. I don't think Jackson's a winger because he can't run with the ball. He doesn't want the ball at his feet. So, yeah, it's a difficult one. But you mentioned system. I personally would play a 5-3-2. That's my personal opinion. The same way we played against Norwich. Have Salverson and Mendez-Laing up front and have Yates coming off the bench. Because when we've done that, we've looked more dangerous. It gives us more options. If we start Salverson and Yates up top, we maybe don't have the options from the bench. Start like that, give it 60 minutes, move things around if we need to. Jack, what's your go-to? What do you think Derby should be playing?
I'm just lost, to be honest. With the injuries, I mean, if Phillips is out long term, the three's completely null and void because I don't think we have three. I don't think we've got three centre halves if Phillips isn't fit. So for me, well, true, but yeah, it's a tough one. For me, I think Eustace is going to come in. He's going to say, I'm playing 4-2-3-1. Let's be done with it because he's done that everywhere. Wherever he's been, it's been 4-2-3-1. And to be honest, I think our players do suit it. I mean, when Wilson's fit, if and when that day will ever return, it'd be amazing because then we've got a bit of creativity down the right. I think that's the issue. But the fullbacks aren't offering much going forward, so it's always a flat four. I think nowadays you always need one of your fullbacks to be having that bit of quality, which unfortunately Callum doesn't have. So for me, it's got to be, we've got to try and way of lopsiding it because at the moment our wingers get the ball and we do talk a lot about our wingers not being particularly brilliant, but also they're always 1 versus 2 because they've always got a midfielder coming over and doubling up, or you've got their winger tracking back. And now, Nyambi's not an attacking winger at all. So he isn't going to help. So we're always isolated. It's always in a mismatch. Whereas when you can get Kane Wilson bombing beyond, we've seen it time and time again. Now, whether you're a Kane Wilson lover or not, I love the kid. I think he's amazing. He shows absolute courage every time he gets the ball. He's not afraid to run at people. When you get that and you can get a Kenzo linking it, all of a sudden you're 3 versus 2. You're creating overloads. And when was the last time Derby created an overload? I can't even remember. And also, while Jake was on his very positive rant about the situation, I had a little look through our just a few little stats. And again, stats don't really win football matches. Stats mean naff all. The only stat that matters is goals. But on Friday night, we had 440 passes, which since Sheffield Wednesday away is the first time we broke 400 passes, which is ridiculous. And that shows that the style is going to completely change. We
conceded 4 goals in both
of those games. Exactly. And that highlights the lack of quality and the lack of numbers to create these chances, because you have in 400 passes, you haven't, what have you done? What have you done? You've done nothing. The 2 goals against Sheffield Wednesday came out of nothing. The no goals at the weekend was epitomised by a lack of creativity. So it just shows where the passes actually are. The passes aren't in good areas. And for me, that is exactly, it's just round the back. It's backwards and sideways, which needs to change. We need to get the ball into the middle, as Jake said. Young Harrison Armstrong with he's got nothing to lose. The kid hasn't. He's got nothing to lose. This relegation on his CV, if he gets it, it's going to mean nothing. It's going to mean nothing to him. He's going to go on and have a career. So why not play him? Let him be brave. Tell him to get on the ball. Make mistakes. It doesn't matter. Because he will unlock doors. And it's the same with Kenzo. Again, Kenzo Hardmind is a very, very talented footballer who I think, if we stay up and if he has a good season next season, is an asset. But we need to get him in the areas. I think he's a 10. So going back to the formation, it would be 4-2-3-1. In an ideal world, everybody's fit, everybody's happy and jolly, no one's gassed out. Wilson back in the side. You can play whichever left back you want. I don't think particularly Fozzie or Older are great. So attack down the right. Leave Mendez-Laing out on the left or Harness out on the left. Tell him you're the man on there. You're on your own. Go and do something. Down the right, create overloads. Kenzo, link the right. 3 versus 2. All of a sudden, you're going to create chances. Let the 2 in midfield be Armstrong and Ibu. Ibu can do all the horrible, dirty, nasty stuff. Give the ball to Armstrong. Let the kid do something. And then Kenzo Hardmine playing the 10. I always think the 10 is your best player. And I think Kenzo's our best player. In terms of ability on the ball, he's our best player. So play him in the 10. Don't make him defend. Don't make him go and tackle. Get him on the ball. Slip the gaps. Play it out wide to the wingers. For me, Salverson has to play because we've seen it 1,000,001 times when we have to go long with Yates, it doesn't stick. At least with Salverson, we've got a chance of making it stick, and he's a presence to make it a bit better to win a second ball. So that for me is how we've got to go about it. And hook or by crook, we have to start winning games. It doesn't matter if we win 1-0, it doesn't matter if we win 4-0. We just need to win. And for me, I think that gives us the best shot. Again, you pick whichever winger you want. I don't think any of them are particularly great, especially since Blackett-Taylor's got injured. So you can play anybody out wide. Just create overloads. That's all it needs to be is overloads. And we'll be okay. But again, under Paul Warne, it was just get the ball to the fullback, cross. If that doesn't work, get to the other fullback, cross. And if that doesn't work, let's get a corner and hope that goes in. I just think with Eustace, we're going to be a little bit less one-dimensional. And I just really, really hope it clicks because it's so difficult to make a style change midway through the season.
It is. That's the hard thing. And again, we keep banging on. 13 games. That's not a lot of games. We've only got a couple of months left of the season. So it's going to be really, really tight. And the games are coming thick and fast, Vic. I've asked Jack his thoughts on the shape. I've said back five because I don't trust us not to concede. Jack's gone for 4-2-3-1 because he's more progressive. Vic, what are you thinking?
I think Norwich away was sort of the blueprint of how we should actually set up. I think having that, obviously we know that Phillips is probably injured and could be ruled out for the rest of the season, which is a shame. But say if we could slot Foz in there, maybe Jake Rooney. I'd rather trust Foz at this moment in time, but play with the wing backs. Like Jack was saying about creating the overloads, I think, especially that first half against Norwich, I think that was there. I think we created the overloads, got down the wings, and we were putting the balls into the box. I mean, we scored a perfectly viable goal from it, which was ruled out for offside. But we really caused a lot of problems to a team like Norwich. Now, Norwich are battling at the top end of the table. We know some of the games that we've got left, like your Plymouths and your Stokes and your Hulls, we've got to play all these teams yet. We tend to play our best football when teams are coming at us. I imagine that now these teams are now fighting for relegation. It's not going to be that sort of scrappy. Every team's going to go for it now. We've seen the way Hull can play football now. We've seen the way that the other teams are starting to play football. Plymouth are playing some decent football at the minute as well. That could play into our hands if we get the setup right. 5-3-2, I think, is perfect for us. Especially what Jack's saying about the overloads. You need to get your wing backs involved in that. That's where we saw the best of Kenzo. That's where we saw the best of Osborne. The players that we're saying are lacking in confidence, put them in their sort of preferred positions and watch them flourish. If we can get Ozo back, that's a massive help because that's probably the key to the rest of this cog working. So hopefully we can get him back, slot him in, play 5-3-2. We might see an upturn in form. I think it'll be the best way to set up for now. We can reevaluate in the summer. The main aim is just to stay up now. Get the 5-3-2 going. Let's get some goals on. Get some goals in the back of the nets. Get some points on the board. And hopefully when it comes to the summer, we can just relax and just rebuild. That's all we need to do. But for the next 13 games, let's do what we can to win games. And that's all that matters.
Well, yeah, it'll be pretty relaxing building a League One team, wouldn't it? Because we've pretty much got one. So, we wouldn't have to recruit too much at all. We'd probably be fine. We wouldn't need to sign too many. Everyone would stay nice and quiet. But yeah, I know what you mean. I think we've just got to get it over the line. But it's a lot easier said than done. There's questions from Jim in the chat. He's put, why don't we use lads from the under 23s, any decent free agents? Jack, it's a good question. Cruz Allen was on the bench at QPR. I think my personal perspective on the under 23s is I think it's hard to start them for the simple reason that a lot of the time when you start these young players, you need experienced heads around them that are performing, and bringing a player in this situation, having lost 14 out of the last 20 games is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a good environment for a young player to come in. But at the same time, off the bench, if a Cruz Allen comes on, sets a goal up, scores a goal, it could be the spark for them to have a Sibley under Koku kind of spark in that part of the season. We were struggling.
What an
Sibley
era.
comes in. I know Sibley comes in, hits, 5, 6, 7 goals. and suddenly Derby look a much better team. So what are your thoughts on the lads from the under-23s, and can you think of any free agents that Derby could
This
bring
was
in,
another
some tough
thing.
ones?
I was also scrolling a separate tab is the list of free agents, and if I'm honest, it's slim pickings. I think when we
Diego
look
Costa.
through, I'm literally on that tab now. There's just searching down. There's Serge Aurier, who's going to want massive wage, also ex-Forest. Do we really want to beg like that? Probably not. The one for me who should be a no-brainer, and I know his attitude has been questioned at times, is Brandon Williams. I think 24 years old, great age profile, can play right back and left back. We are desperately in need of a left back. 6-month contract, whatever it is, get him in, reevaluate. Same as the Matt Clark situation. If we go down, see you later, mate. Go and find somewhere else. I just think you give him an opportunity, you give him an inch, he might give you a mile. Again, scrolling through the list, players that have played in England before, you've got the lad who used to be at Fulham, Ivan Cavallero. Yeah, a name that could potentially make a bit of a difference.
Good in 2017.
Yeah, Kemar Roof, again, is proven at this level. Again, just this scrolling here is really
Ryan
bad.
Kent is a name that I've seen banded around a lot. Diego Costa is a name I've also seen banded around.
I don't think you're allowed crocodiles in Derby, so Ryan Kent is a no-go. And maybe, again, a player that's had a bit of a rough time, a decent age profile. Timothy Fosu-Mensah was a name that was banded about in, well, maybe early December when we had a bit of a crisis. And he's primarily played at right wing back, can also play holding midfield. Could he be a player that could just slot in, maybe not beside Ibu Adams, but to take the load off Ibu because he plays a lot of minutes, does a lot of hard yards? Is he the type of player that could come in? Again, it is really slim pickings. I think Brandon Williams is a no-brainer for us in this situation. It should be done. On the 23s, I've watched a little bit. It's tough, in it when you're getting beat every week. Bringing a kid in at this stage could make or break. And I just think in our current situation, it might break them. I've seen a bit of Cruz Allen. He does look very good. Looks a little bit lightweight, but again, he's 18, isn't he? So he's going to be another one who I'd like to see a little bit more is Lennon Wielden. Every time I've watched him, he's been a bit of a nuisance, and he scores goals, and he's a similar build to what Dejan Brown is. A little bit taller, maybe not quite as well-rounded as what Dej is, because Dej is a pretty technically decent footballer. But again, it is one of them. Do we trust these kids to get us out of relegation battle? Maybe, but if this is what we're talking about, it just goes back to the point of the recruitment's been a bit turgid, hasn't it? It's not been very good at all. So, yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it?
Well, that's it. I mean, again, look at players that routinely get picked. Jackson has 2 goals and 3 assists in 33 games.
Yeah,
I'm willing to bet a Cruz Allen and get the same.
At least,
if
least
not
the same,
more.
yeah.
You know, in that time. And that's the thing for me, is that when we're trying the same thing, and this is a problem under Warne a lot, we kept trying the same thing over and over again. And when it didn't work, we'd do it again. And it didn't work, we'd do it again. And I think now there's got to be a bit of change, hasn't there? And like we said, Eustace has got a week now to build his team and get his team ready for a really big game against a Millwall team that, you know, it's at home. I think 3 of the next 4 games are at home. It's a real big chance to build something. I'm sure Jamie will cover that in midweek as well. Vic, I mean, I just want your, I guess, closing view on where Derby will go this season, because, like we said, John Eustace has 13 games. We've just been pumped 4-0. We've had a very long discussion about all of Derby's failings, but there's got to be a way forward, hasn't there? There's got to be a way out of this. It's not all doom and gloom. Players have got to give their all. Fans have got to give their all. There is a way out of this.
Yeah, I mean, the way we've got to look at it now is it's 13 cup finals. It's all or nothing now. The season hangs in the balance. We've got a manager now that can hopefully turn our fortunes around. Unfortunately, we have been hit by injuries, but I guess every team has as well. We can't use that as an excuse. Let's wipe the slate clean. Let's try and get the confidence back into the players. Let's try and support them in the stands as well. It's been a very weird season in terms of being a fan, because we've seen so much division between what we thought about the manager, what we thought about the style of play. It's a clean slate now. John Eustace is in. Let's back him. Let's back the players. Hopefully he can get the system right, get the confidence right. We've got 13 games to go. Let's try and give it our all. And what will be. If we stay up, fantastic, brilliant. But also, if we were to go down, I think we've got a very capable manager that can help us sort of get back, hopefully, at the first attempt, as long as we can get everything behind the scenes correct as well. So I think we've got to have a sense of realism. Going down is still very much a possibility for us. Either way, I think we're in capable hands with John Eustace at the helm. But it's not over until the fat lady sings. I ain't singing yet, so let's keep going. But yeah, we've got 13 games to go. Back the manager, back the players. Let's get the atmosphere going, home and away. Let's do our bit for the boys, and hopefully we can see ourselves over the line, get some injuries back, get some freebies in if we can, maybe 1 or 2 special players from the under 18s and under 23s, give ourselves a right go, and what will be from there.
Absolutely. I haven't seen many women with a beard like yours though, Vic. My God, can you imagine? That'd be remarkably impressive. I want you 50-50 answers. Jack, will Derby stay up? Yes, no.
Yes.
Vic?
Yes. Yep.
And I'm going to say yes as well. You Rams, come on. Derby is staying up. The power of positivity. Yeah, make sure next week, go into the ground, support the team, support the lads, back Eustace in his first home game in charge. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you for all the debate in the comments. I know we didn't look at it too much, but there's so much going on. I've enjoyed reading the conversations, though. It's been good. It is definitely going to be a close one, as Damien in the chat says. It's going to be a really difficult end to the season. We need to stick together. We need to back the players. We can't turn on the players now. You know, we've got to a point where nothing can change, right? We can't bring any more players in, really, unless it's one of Jack's mystery free agents. We can't change the manager again, because that would be really silly, and he's got a good track record. So let's get behind the team, back each other, back the players, and let's get to the end of the season. So thank you so much for listening. If you did enjoy, please leave a like, please subscribe, please give us a rating on Apple Pods and Spotify and all of that, please. Thank you. And if you can donate, we're running lots of miles. Jack's on board now. He's part of team running or team walking for us as cripples, because there's so many of us that are just broken now that we're having to do it in slow motion instead. So please do donate. The link is in the bio, and every donation means a massive amount to us and also people in Derby who benefit from Derby Food for Thought Alliance. So, like I said, thank you for listening. It's a goodbye from me.
Yeah, well, as Jake said, stay behind the boys. Don't start fighting amongst ourselves. We've got to get behind them. 13 big cup finals. Goodbye from me.
13 games to go. The Great Escape is on. Goodbye from me.
I feel bad that I don't have a big, long, special outro that you guys have now, but bye.